Now, I want to start with something a bit different. I want to take you back to the Canterbury Helston Park RSL in May last year. I was there. You were there, quite famously. That was the night of your election victory. The room's packed. The crowd's going wild for you. You gave your election victory speech. And I remember watching you come, after you'd finished, you tried to come down off the stage and you tried to walk through the crowd to go and see your friends who were there. And you couldn't move. All of a sudden, the office of Prime Minister just descended upon you. There's police, there's cameramen, there's journalists, everyone's swarming you. And I remember watching you and thinking, wow, the weight of the office happens quickly when it happens. I want to ask you what that moment was like for you. And did you feel that weight on your shoulders all of a sudden? How did it feel?
It was an extraordinary moment. I actually go back a little bit further, which is when I came out of my house from watching the election night coverage play out, and I got the phone call from Mr. Morrison, and we went through that, and I took that away from my family and friends. We only had 8 people there in the house, and I said, it's done. And there was this moment of, okay, it's happened. I'm now the Prime Minister, and I went outside. I didn't expect there were hundreds of people in the street, which is a pretty ordinary suburban street.
Yep.
In Marrickville, and there was this moment which was, okay, it's really happening. And then on the night, I very consciously wanted to go to a local RSL, a club that was familiar to me. We'd had my book launch, had been launched there by Bob Hawke, and we'd had a number of nights there, pretty good restaurant there.
It's a great club.
And I didn't want to go into the CBD, into one of the fancy hotels. So I thought that was important as well as a way to start what I hoped would be the new government. But it does happen pretty quickly. But it was very daunting, but I didn't have that much time to think about it. I had not prepared my speech in advance, so we had to I dictated the speech to someone sitting on my floor of the lounge room. So Katie typed it all in, she printed it out, and then I made one then read through and check. But some of it as well on the night was spontaneous.
What was your dominant emotion when you're giving that speech?
Pride that Labor had won, we'd succeeded in winning the election. I had said in 2019, I'd given a speech at the National Press Club outlining kicking with the wind in the last quarter. I went through the 4 phases in which we would do. I went through what our priorities would be. We had shown incredible discipline, I think, as a party and a movement to get through that. I had received extraordinary support from the movement, but it was also a sense of relief. I genuinely thought that the Morrison government wasn't worthy of re-election, and I thought it would descend into even worse condition afterwards if they were successful again. And so it was a sense of relief, but also that sense of opportunity that now we had a chance to really make a difference, to implement the agenda that we'd put forward.
So Jackie's question really has highlighted the fact that all of a sudden you've got immense power. What's the best thing about having that power as Prime Minister now?
Power is defined by its use. So using it judiciously, not overusing it for its own sake, using it in the interest of the objectives that you want to achieve. So already we have turned around Australia's positioning on climate change. We've gone from being a pariah in the naughty corner with 2 or 3 countries saying no, to actually engaging with our neighbours, but also engaging with the economic opportunities that are there from the transition to a clean energy economy.
And so if those are the pluses, what are the minuses? At a personal level, what's the downside or the worst thing of having that power?
The lack of freedom, the not being able to just drop into the pub by yourself and catch up with someone. Time is the biggest shortage. The demands on my time are quite extraordinary. The pressures that are there as well. But that's a small price to pay for the incredible privilege that I've been given, and it's not something that I take for granted.